Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. I am your host, Tiger Paul Craven. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get into the show tonight, before we bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman, if you are not subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. It really helps us out. We're trying to grow this channel. Also, this is a live video, so we try to keep our likes to live chat ratio as best we can. So hit that like button for us. And as always, last but not least, if you would like to support the channel in any other way, links are in the description below. You can also use the super chat feature throughout our live video, and we will respond to you and your comment, and we'll read it out loud. But also, we operate under the Voice of College Football. Mark Rogers gives us this platform to talk to you guys, to communicate with you guys, and really gives us a platform to chop it up about Clemson football and Clemson athletics in general. So show some love over on the main channel, which is the Voice of College Football. There's also a ton of other team channels. I think 20 or so team channels out there that are active as well. So show some love to them. Also, the Voice of College Football has merch. I don't know if you guys know that, but they have merch. They got T-shirts, jackets, coffee mugs, all sorts of stuff. So check out the store and support the channel that way as well. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, my friend, my buddy, fan favorite, Jordan Bowman. How you doing tonight, Jordan?
I'm chilling, man. Just enjoying spring break. Most importantly, I'm at my mom's house right now. She's getting ready to go out of town, so I'm dog sitting for her.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm enjoying life right now. Just happy to have a break. So just enjoying that. And obviously, my spring break not just coincides, but is the same as the football team. So they are probably enjoying theirs as well. So just happy to just relax, do this show, and just kind of air some stuff out. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we got a ton to talk about on tonight's show. It's going to be jam-packed. We got a ton of things that both me and Jordan have talked about that we want to cover tonight. Again, no new stuff out of fall or out of spring practice. No new stuff out of spring camp. Again, they are on spring break, much like my buddy Jordan Bowman here. They are enjoying their time off. They are recouping. They are getting ready to ramp back up come Monday. Spring practice starts again on the 27th, which is Monday. So spring practice will be in full swing come Monday. And then, of course, we have the spring game to look forward to, which will be April 15th, right? So lots of stuff to look forward to, lots of stuff to talk about. But we got a few things to talk about with the All-In show here, right, Jordan?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so those of you in the chat section right now, I know we got 10 people in the live chat, and I'll mention it again at the end of the show for those that aren't here right now. But our time is going to unfortunately change. I know you guys have kind of come accustomed to us doing this live show, the All-In show with me and Jordan here at 7 p.m. every Thursday. We are going to keep the show on Thursday. We're going to continue with the show on Thursday. However, unfortunately, I have a daughter that is 100% bought in on softball. She's all about it, and she's got a lot of stuff coming up on Thursdays earlier in the evening. So we are unfortunately going to have to move the show until 9 o'clock. Okay, so I hope you guys can continue to support the show, continue to come into the live chat. So instead of 7 p.m. every Thursday, for the next couple months, it will be 9 p.m. Okay, so we're going to push it back a couple hours. But again, We will be here every Thursday at 9 p.m. To chop it up with you guys about Clemson football. We'll have great shows available to you, much like the shows that we bring you at 7 p.m. Nothing will change other than the time. Okay, so just bear with us through these next couple months. I apologize that we have to change the time. We really got settled into this 7 p.m. and it works for both me and Jordan, but we had to make that change because I got to be a dad first. I got to support my daughter and be there for all of her softball stuff as much as I can. As much as I love to come on here on YouTube, chop it up with Jordan, chop it up with you guys in the comment section. Of course, my daughter comes first. So that's going to be the big change to the All-In show here. So I hope you guys will still come in. Hope you guys will still like, comment, and support us. And we'll keep the content coming. So before we get into the show, Jordan, how has your spring break been? What has Jordan Bowman been doing since he's had a hiatus from his quite technical courses that he takes at Clemson? I don't know if you guys know, Jordan's a genius.
I don't know about all that.
He's
But
an engineer. He's gonna create something that changes the world one day. So.
We'll see. But honestly, spring break has been just pretty uneventful. Purposefully.
There you go. Yeah, that's good, man. Hey, sometimes you just gotta unplug and take a break, right?
Yeah. Just been wasting a lot of time. My mom's birthday was this week, so I spent a lot of time with her on Monday. So that was really nice. But other than that, I've just been kind of just hanging out, chilling. Glad to be back home. Seen a couple of my folks, some people that I know from back home. But other than that, I haven't gone on any like trip or anything like that. I'm just chilling, man. I gotta, because I needed that time to just kind of relax and just kind of unwind, because it's been a really stressful semester, and so I'm just enjoying the time while I can. And this is definitely one of my highlights of the week every week. So couldn't miss this for the world.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. And both me and Jordan look forward to this point in the week where we get to come on and we get to talk to you guys about Clemson football and all that kind of stuff. I think you got a question in the comment section, Jordan, by Bryce. He said, Jordan, have you heard about the 0-point energy system?
Have I heard about it? I mean, have I heard about it? Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of my area of, well, if you guys don't know, my emphasis is in astrophysics. So obviously that coincides with, it has a lot of different disciplines of physics within it. So everything from quantum physics, particle physics, optics. So you kind of have to take a huge plethora of different courses. You still got to be well versed in classical mechanics, even though they're kind of two sides of the same coin. So yeah, 0-point energy systems. Yeah, we talk about those all the time. I'm not going to go into depth on this show. This is not a science show, but I just wanted to. But that's really impressive, Bryce. I don't know what your background is, Bryce, but that's pretty impressive. Not because not a lot of people. That's not a question I get, even especially in this space when I mentioned that I'm a physics major. So
Luke gets in and says nerd alert. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hey, listen, nerd is a badge of. It's not an insult these days.
It's a badge of honor. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely.
And Luke, don't you go to North Carolina? Don't you go to Chapel Hill? I mean, aren't you a nerd too?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you a nerd? I mean,
come on, Luke. You're a nerd too. What are you hating on my boy Jordan for? Come on now. Luke wasn't UNC more trash than Clemson this year in basketball. Man, the basketball talk's already getting in here. We ain't gonna discuss basketball tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm done with the basketball talk. It's been a crazy crazy saga, and we got some more news today, bad news as far as transfer portal and stuff, as far as the basketball program is concerned. So I'm disconnecting myself from the basketball program for now, because it's just gonna make me mad.
Yeah, absolutely. We are not talking Clemson basketball tonight. If we get to a couple other sports, we'll get to it, but I guarantee you guys it won't be basketball tonight. I'm not going to tempt my boy Jordan into any sort of basketball rants tonight. We're gonna leave that dead. But before we get into the show tonight, let's shout out everybody into the comment section. We got Edward in here. We got John Sarian. We got Ben Adams. We got John Amando. Is that how you say it?
John Diadamo.
Diadamo. My bad. I'm sorry, John. I apologize. I'm uncultured. We got Bryce in here. Let's see. Luke Walker's in here. We appreciate you all getting in here and supporting the show, hanging out with us, talking a little Clemson football, which we will get into shortly. We got Steel Gamble in here. What's up, guys? Go Tigers. Absolutely. Go Tigers. Tigers on top. And we appreciate you getting here. Mr. Yamambo gets in here.
Mr. You mad, bro?
You mad, bro? My bad.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Smitty gets in here. He's showing us some love in here. Clemson and Son gets in here as well.
No, it's Clem and Son.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, Clem and Son. Yeah,
I just went ahead and finished it for him. I thought he was just being lazy. So Clemson and Son, Clem and Son. Okay. Yeah, Jordan corrected me. Mr. You mad, bro? Yeah. So we got tons of people in here tonight. We appreciate you guys getting in here. Like always, you guys, if any of you have been into me and Jordan's live streams before, or in the All-In Show, as we call it, we like to, interact with the chat. We like to get you guys' thoughts out there, and we'll let you guys lead us down any road possible once we get done with our planned stuff, right? The stuff that we want to talk about. I mentioned before, a couple more people are in here right now, so I'll mention it again. My daughter has softball every Thursday now. She is a big-time softball player. I say big time. She has, she really loves it, and I want to be there for it. So we are going to change our 7 p.m. show. This will be our last 7 p.m. show for a couple months now. We'll probably change it back afterwards because it's a time that works best for me and Jordan. But Jordan has kindly agreed to stay up a little bit later for me. And we will do the show at 9 p.m. every Thursday from now until we let you know that's going to change. Okay, so we appreciate you guys coming in, but this will be the last 7 p.m. show. But again, we will bring this show to you every Thursday at 9 p.m. Next Thursday, moving on for the next couple months until softball season is over. Okay, so yeah, let's get into the show tonight, Jordan. We got a lot to talk about, and we're going to lead it off with a hot button topic, right? I don't know if it's exactly a hot button topic, but it's a topic that's gotten a lot of traction on Twitter, I assume. I'm not on Twitter, but I assume it's gotten a lot of traction on Twitter. It's definitely got a lot of traction in the Clemson message boards and stuff like that. Excuse me. And that is Brandon Streeter to UGA. So Brandon Streeter has accepted a position as a offensive analyst for the University of Georgia. He will be moving over to Athens, Georgia to become, offensive analyst for them. What that role entails, I'm sure it's different for every single team. How involved will he be with the offense? How involved will he be with game planning and scheme, or will he just be watching tape and breaking down opponents for Georgia? I don't know exactly what he will be doing, but I'm interested to see your thoughts, Jordan, when you first heard this news and kind of how it broke on Twitter. I'm sure it broke with some sort of overreaction, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure, and kind of on both sides of the coin. I think Clemson fans and Georgia fans had their different reactions toward it. Really, the first thing I thought was I think it's a pretty low risk move for Georgia. I mean, you get a guy that's been a part of a two-time national championship program, or at least coaching staff, and
Mhm.
was the quarterback coach for two really good quarterbacks, and had a hand in recruiting them as well. Well, at least one of them.
Right.
He
Yeah.
didn't recruit Deshaun Watson, but he did. He was definitely a part of Trevor Lawrence's recruitment. So yeah, I mean, I think it's first of all, it's a low risk move for Georgia because you get a guy that has that experience, and that kind of those connections from a recruiting standpoint, and he's from a program that you compete, directly against as far as recruiting, as far as on the field. You played them in 2021. You're going to play them again next year. You have a home and home coming up in like 5 years or something like that. So it's a move that makes sense for Georgia. It's low risk, and you could get some pretty potentially good rewards out of it. And honestly, I think it's good for Brandon Streeter too. Just happy that he was able to land on his feet, find a job. Um, Obviously, his time at Clemson was very very mixed as far as reception and as far as how it played out, and obviously it didn't end up working out as offensive coordinator. But he was an invaluable piece of Clemson's coaching staff for the last 6 or 7 years. So when I saw the news, I was like, good for him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of the hate that Brandon Streeter has gotten, obviously this past season, Clemson fans were obviously not happy with the Clemson offensive production or what they were able to do on the field in several games this past season. But I think a lot of people mistake that for hate for Brandon Streeter as a person or as a coach. I don't think any Clemson fan hates Brandon Streeter as a person. He played for Clemson. He was, he was a gritty quarterback. He's done a lot of good things for Clemson. I think he had the benefit of working with a lot of great quarterbacks, and that may be true. But that doesn't mean that Brandon Streeter's a bad coach. Could it just mean that Brandon Streeter wasn't ready for the position that he was appointed to? What's kind of your take on that? Like, was Brandon Streeter just appointed prematurely, and Dabo just kind of made a miscalculation of his abilities, or him being ready for that sort of position with a program like Clemson that is kind of towards the top of college football, and the pressure that comes with that?
Yeah, I definitely think there was an element, to that of just, he was really green. I mean, obviously he had called plays at Liberty and Richmond, but it's a different step.
Right.
Um, Coaching at one of the premier programs in college football in the Power Five, you're going up against other defensive coordinators that are paid similar to you and are really good at their jobs as well. So it's it's a different step up, just as far as your responsibilities, what you have to do, and there was it obviously all doesn't fall on Streeter. I think there was things could have been in better shape for him going into his first year than it ended up being. Obviously, everyone remembers that 2021 season, how banged up the team was, how just
Yeah.
anemic the offense was in general. You have a quarterback struggling, wide receivers that can't stay on the field, an offensive line that has a revolving door. And, I think there were a lot of things from that season that carried over into this past season. And, for the most part, especially in the first half of the year, I thought Brandon Streeter did a pretty, commendable job of getting a lot out of this offense and kind of righting the ship a little bit. I think there's a misnomer that the offense this past season was bad. It wasn't bad. It was not a bad offense. They averaged 33 points a game,
30,
I think.
33 points a game. Yep.
Um,
33 point something, but yeah, 33 points a game.
yeah. So I mean, that's not great, and especially considering the talent Clemson has and the league they play in, you would expect them to score more, and obviously the expectation was to score more, and they didn't, which is why he was let go. But I think the offense was definitely a massive step up from what they were in 2021, and so I think Brandon Streeter does deserve some credit. He got more production out of DJ Uiagalelei than a lot of people were expecting after that just nightmare of a season in 2021. So were there aspects of this season where it was clear that Streeter his inexperience showed, and absolutely. And I just don't think he was the right. I just don't think he was the right person for what Clemson needed this year.
Yeah.
And so I think he did some good things, but the bad things were too much to ignore, and it definitely held Clemson back in a major way. And it is what it is. Sometimes you get your opportunity and you're not ready. I know Dabo has built this program. His philosophy is he wants guys to be able to come up through the system, and then when they get their opportunity, it's they're ready.
Yep.
Success is what preparation when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the mantra of what this program is built around, and that's how Dabo ended up getting his own head coaching job. So
he's talked about it a ton in a lot of interviews. So
and sometimes that it just the reality is it's not the world doesn't work like that, and idealistically you would like it to be, but sometimes there are failures, there are misses, and Brandon Streeter I don't think he was ready, and partly I think he wasn't ready, and also there were just some aspects of the offense that needed a little bit more that he was not equipped to give them. So it is what it is.
And I think it was a continuation of the 2021 season, right? That was Tony Elliott, which failed. And a lot of that was, as you mentioned, injury, especially at the wide receiver position. I mean, Clemson was riddled with injuries in 2021. And that was kind of the excuse, I guess you could say, for 2021 and the offensive production. And then I feel like Brandon Streeter was a continuation of what Tony Elliott was doing later on in Clemson. And it just wasn't working for the personnel. It wasn't working for the people that were at Clemson. It wasn't working anymore for whatever reason. Maybe it's lack of ideas. Maybe it's, whatever the case may be. It doesn't really matter. It just wasn't working. But you commend Dabo Swinney in recognizing that and saying, you know what? Hey, we got to make a change no matter how hard it is. This guy has played for us. This guy has coached for us. This guy has done everything right, but I don't think he's ready to lead this team into the future. So that's a big thing when you think about a leader in Dabo Swinney. That's not an easy decision to make, okay? So I wish Brandon Streeter well. I think he will get another opportunity at an offensive coordinator position, whether it be at, who knows where it'll be. But I truly do think Brandon Streeter will get another opportunity at another Power 5 offensive coordinator position, and maybe he parlays that into a head coaching position. Who knows? college football is always changing. And just because somebody doesn't work in a certain setting doesn't mean that they're a terrible coach, doesn't mean that they won't work, somewhere else. Who knows what happens? It's really all up in the air. But I don't have any animosity towards Brandon Streeter as a person or as a coach, really. It was just time for a change at Clemson. And I think we made it clear on this show. I think Dabo obviously made it clear by making the change that he did. It just wasn't working at Clemson. Hopefully he lands on his feet, and he has. He's landed on his feet at Georgia as an offensive analyst. Hopefully he sees a different perspective over there. Maybe he gets, some things from Mike Bobo, and, maybe he can parlay that into another coordinator position or even a head coaching position. I know that sounds crazy right now, but it happens all the time in college football. When you have your foot in the door in college football, jobs just come, right? And I don't think he's a terrible coach. I just think that he lacked the ability to take Clemson where they needed to go at that particular time, right? So not that he will forever. Everybody's always growing in this sport, right? Whether it be the players, the coaches, you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always developing. And I think he could, be, something in the future. We'll see what happens. But regardless of all that, I don't want it to be misconstrued as, we don't like Brandon Streeter or we don't ever want to see him succeed or anything like that. That's not the case. It was just time for Clemson to move on. I think it was time for him to move on. And I think this is good for both parties, right? And hopefully he develops as a play caller. He develops as an offensive mind, and he can do something in the future that will get him, back to where he wants to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's obviously we wish the best for him, and hopefully he succeeds. I think Georgia is a great landing spot for him. Obviously 2-time, back-to-back national championships. And, just he gets to, immerse himself in a different program or different setting outside of Clemson, get that experience, get new ideas, and, maybe pick up some new stuff. So I think it's good for him. I think it's good for Georgia. Just getting a guy that, from a recruiting standpoint and just from knowledge of a rival program, that definitely helps. So, I think it's a win-win for those two.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So best to Streeter. But we will get into some Clemson football now. And we are really going to kind of deep dive tonight, guys, into the Clemson secondary. We're going to talk the corners. We're going to talk, maybe a little bit of safety and stuff like that, and maybe some D-line. But we're going to really deep dive into the Clemson secondary. There's a lot of articles being produced out there about the Clemson secondary and how they have performed in the first 7 days of spring practice. And, there's a lot of stuff out there. The Clemson secondary, you got a Sheridan Jones, and you got a Nate Wiggins. And those guys have been, kind of pinned to be the starters next year. I guess the guys that run out there first, those guys are probably going to be the people that run out there first. But you got a lot of guys behind them that are, really working in the trenches to get some looks, maybe fill those second team options, those third team options, and even compete for some starting time depending on injuries and stuff like that, right? So I want to start with a guy in Jaden Lucas, right? 5-star cornerback coming into the program. He had surgery last week to repair his left shoulder. He had a torn labrum in his left shoulder. And one of the big things about him is he also had his right shoulder operated on in the previous spring, right? So last spring he had his right labrum repaired. Now he's had his left shoulder labrum repaired, and but he put his surgery off, which is one of the interesting things. Like Jaden Lucas put his surgery off, and one of the things when he was asked why he put his surgery off, it was really to compete for a job. He really wanted to show what he could do in spring practice, at least the first half of spring practice. He'll be out, the rest of spring and probably into summer a little bit. But he's expected to be back full strength for fall camp, right? But he put his surgery off. He said he wanted to compete for a job. He said he wanted to get through defensive install and all that kind of stuff like that, right? So what are kind of your takeaways from Jaden Lucas and how he performed last season, and kind of the injuries that he's sustained since he's been at Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Lucas, as a recruit, I love the kid. When he came out, I love when Clemson gets big time in-state recruits, and Jaden Lucas is one of them. And I think for a guy like Mike Reed, Mike Reed is always, since he's been at Clemson, he's always loved to get long, rangy, athletic corners.
Absolutely.
And Jaden Lucas is the prototype of that. If you could build like what Mike Reed likes in a corner in a lab, like Jaden Lucas is what the machine would spit out.
Yeah, 6'2",
really long arms, super athletic, just a
fast,
insane
physical.
vertical.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think the world of the kid, and I think he's got a lot of potential on this defense. And it sucked to have some of the injuries in the secondary that this team did, but it was really good to see Lucas he kind of got thrown in the fire at times, and he took his lumps. We talked about Nate Wiggins in the Wake Forest game, but Lucas didn't have a great game a great day that day either.
No.
But I think he, like a lot of the corners in this room, got better as the season went on. He had that interception in the ACC championship game. That was really cool to see. Just a nice leaping grab. He was in phase, played the ball really, really well. That's something he did a lot in high school, so it was really good to see him do it at the college level. I think that I think he's due for a really, really huge jump in production this year. So hopefully the surgery and his recovery goes well, and he's ready to go when fall rolls around. Because I'm really, really excited about him. I'm excited about a lot of guys in this room, but Lucas is definitely one of the guys I'm super high on. Just I think he's got all the tools to be a really, really nice corner. And this is a group in general that really needs to take a step forward. I talked about this on I posted a stat on Twitter the other day, and it was really shocking when I first saw it, because I knew there was some issues, but I didn't realize it was this bad. So Dabo has said a couple of times this offseason how this defense gave up too many big plays in the passing game, and that was the major emphasis of improvement for this offseason. And I was like, yeah, this sounds about right. I remember giving up a ton of big plays. I mean, Wake Forest obviously comes to mind a lot of times, and a lot of points in some of the other games as well. Obviously, the Orange Bowl was definitely not great as far as giving up big plays. But when I did a little research, it was worse than I thought. So Clemson, as far as big passing plays, they were 106th in the country in explosive passive plays allowed, and that's passing plays of 20 or more yards. They were 106th.
106th.
So to put that in perspective, some of the teams that were around them, Tennessee, we know how porous that Tennessee defense was for a lot of the year. USC, we know how bad that secondary was.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley defense. Hello.
Yeah. It was not a good It's not a good passing defense.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
especially given
106th in the country in explosive plays. I think where is it at? I think I read another stat. What was it? Hold on one second. We allowed double the completions of 20 yards or more than we did in 2021. Right? So in 2022, we allowed double the completions of 20 yards or more than we did in 2021. So that goes directly into the kind of stat line that you're talking about.
And for perspective, in 2021, in that same stat, Clemson was 6th in the country.
Wow. So we went from 6th to the very next year. We were, what was it?
106th.
106. So we dropped 100 spots in one off season. That's not good. That's alarming.
And obviously, it's no coincidence that 2021 you had Brent Venables, 2022 you didn't. But also losing you had 2 first-team All ACC corners in 2021, Andrew Booth and Mario Goodrich, and those 2 guys moved on, and you had a cornerback room especially that had a lot of not necessarily new faces, and certainly some new faces, but some guys that just hadn't played a ton and had not, played that, they hadn't stepped into those bigger roles yet. And you couple that with all the injuries that those guys had, and it was a rough situation for this group. And a lot of guys not on the same page. Injuries obviously forced guys to play out of position. We all know who we're talking about when I say that. It was just not a good situation, and I think there were times where this defense was really timid, and because they were really timid, they were unsure of themselves, and there was a lot of miscommunication, especially on the back end. It seemed just too many busted plays, too many busted coverages, and a lot of teams were able to hit big passing plays if they were able to hold up against the defensive line. I think the goal for this season is to kind of just retool a little bit defensively, and I think that's kind of something that Wes Goodwin has talked about. Just getting guys on the same page, getting healthier, and just getting some guys back that you sorely missed. Guys like Malcolm Green, and Sheridan Jones was unavailable multiple times throughout the year. It was just not a great year for health at that position. So I think this secondary has a lot to prove, and they just from all the reports out of spring practice so far, they've certainly played like it. So I'm really excited to see what this group looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jaden Lucas even said that, success didn't come easy with Clemson. It was a work in progress. You kind of, he talked about using his size when he was in high school. It was really easy, right? He just out athleted people. He kind of just outsized people. And things like that. So when you get on the collegiate level, when you get on guys that are bigger, stronger, faster than you, or on the same level of you as you have to use a lot of technique and stuff like that. And, that kind of leads us into a guy in Toriano Pride in the secondary, right? That played all 14 games last season. He actually got 2 starts. He played a lot because of injuries last season. He had 23 tackles, four pass breakups. He had an interception, right? But even him, he was like, I need to improve. I have a lot of things that I can improve on. And a lot of things that he talked about were, finishing plays. He talked about finishing a lot. And I think that's a theme that the coaching staff is using with this secondary. And Toriano Pride echoed it a lot. And just finishing plays on and off the field, right? So developing your approach to the game, developing your film study, developing your things like that, and just finishing your plays. So um, he really talked a lot about just focusing in on what you have to do as a defender, and he's going to be one of the guys that are probably competing for maybe not the starting position, but that two position, right? So that guy that rotates in, right, and is probably going to get a lot of snaps, probably going to get a lot of playing time, and unfortunately, he did last season due to injury. But with that said, Clemson gets benefits of that this season, and they see the benefits of Toriano Pride playing so many snaps last season, right? They see a guy that was able to see it not only in practice but on the field. So it reiterated some of the things that the Clemson coaching staff was talking to him about, and some of the things that what was being said to him. But you got a guy in Sheridan Jones and Nate Wiggins that are probably going to be at the top spots. At least we expect them to be at the top spots, right? But you got a Toriano Pride. Fred Davis obviously transferred out. You got a Sheldon Lewis, a Miles Oliver. Those guys are going to be competing for that second spot. So I think there is a lot of competition in spring right now for Clemson, which is good for us. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Absolutely, and it's just nice to have just more bodies in that room. I think that's just kind of the biggest thing, because you can't really have competition if you don't have a lot of guys. I mean,
Right.
Last season you roll out, you really only have 6 scholarship corners that are ready to go, and a couple of those guys go down, and all of a sudden you're asking Andrew Makuba to play nickel and corner, and just you move guys around, and you're having to cross train a ton of people, and I think just having more bodies in that cornerback room is huge. Healthy bodies in that cornerback room is huge. But yeah, you mentioned Toriano Pride. Another guy I'm really high on a lot of these defensive backs, but Toriano Pride is also one that stands out. He's smaller, but I think he's got all the tools as well, and he definitely showed a lot of improvement over the course of the year. I think obviously the experience he gained playing, those minutes that he normally wouldn't have, is going to be invaluable for him. And just having guys thrown into the fire, especially at a position that like corner, where you're just going to get beat sometimes, no matter how good you are, no matter what your skill set is, how big you are, how fast you are, how strong you are. That's a position that's one of the most, demanding in the entire sport, from just your responsibilities. You have to run with a guy that knows where he's going to go.
But you don't know
you don't always know where you're going to go, especially in man. It's an incredibly difficult position. And so, the only way you get better is through experience. You take your lumps, and even the best corners are going to get beat. And so it's just having those guys get thrown into the fire and take those lumps early. I do think is going to pay a lot of dividends for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna pay a lot of dividends. Toriano Pride was a guy that got a ton of experience last year. I think it will definitely pay dividends for Clemson. And there's, like I said, there's a ton of competition, and like you said, you get beat a lot. You got to read the hips. It's not easy to not know where you're going, so you really have to pay attention to your receivers' hips and where they're going, and read your keys and have eye discipline, and all the stuff that the coaches preach and teach, and all that kind of stuff, and in your preparation and watching game film and stuff like that. And then you go to a guy in the secondary like Malcolm Green that has traditionally played a nickel or a slot corner position, right? A guy that has been super injured in his Clemson career, not really been healthy at all. He had his groin injury. He's had sports hernias. He's had shoulder injuries. He outlined it a lot in this interview that he did. and it's a ton of stuff that he's got going on. But one of the things that he said is this spring is that he's felt as healthy as he's ever been at Clemson, and he's ready to compete. He's been seeing some of the first team reps. He's been repping at outside corner, right? So he's traditionally been in the nickel and slot corner position, but he's been repping at the outside corner. He talks about spending a lot of time in the recovery center, or the castle as they call it, spending every day in there, spending 2 times a day with the trainers, and getting massages, and checking out his knees, and all sorts of stuff, and doing his maintenance that he needs to do to stay on the field. So a guy like Malcolm Green, that's been in the program for quite a while but hasn't been healthy, and now a guy like that is taking his health serious, right? He's doing the extra mile when it comes to the training staff, and trying to keep his body in tip-top shape and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting. He's going to be competing with guys, and he even said that he's planning on playing on the outside, but he's going to be competing with guys like Sheridan Jones, Jalen Lucas, and he feels like he's kind of been waiting his turn at Clemson, but he just hasn't been able to be available. And that's one of the big things in football. If you're not available, you're going to get passed over. So I feel like, reading this article about Malcolm Green that I read, and listening to his interview and stuff like that, he's really taking his body serious. He's taking his preparation serious, and he's really, all in on kind of keeping himself available for the Clemson staff so that he gets that opportunity that he wants, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Malcolm Green is a guy that, like you said, just injury after injury, and I've really loved him coming out. I wish Clemson would go after more Highland Springs guys. Obviously that in Virginia, that's a really good program. They churn out guys all the time. Kayvon Wallace went there as well. They just put out really, really good players. I feel like we don't recruit that area enough. I know, and obviously you got to compete with the Virginia schools, but they're not really a factor. It's more you're competing with the Big Ten schools, Penn State,
Right. Yep.
Ohio State is in there sometimes, but Michigan. So, but I do wish Clemson would go up there and get guys more, because I do think that's a really good program. And Malcolm Green is another guy that I think he's got all the tools, and he just injury after injury has kind of hindered his development. And so it's a really encouraging to hear that he's playing and he's feeling the best he's ever been. Got a lot of expectations for him.
He even said, I plan on leaving with the Jim Thorpe Award. That's what he said. So he's obviously driven. He wants to be the best cornerback in the league. He wants to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So he's obviously has the right mindset going into the season. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. He knows the importance of taking care of his body now. No better program than Clemson to take care of it, right? They got, the Center for Recovery. They got infrared lights. They got hyperbaric chambers. They got all that stuff, man. They got, their little sleep cells, all sorts of stuff, man. They spare no expense when it comes to that. So it's nice to see that he's taking that personal responsibility over his body, over his, his overall health, and that he's looking to compete with a lot of these starters that we assume are going to be starters, right? Nate Wiggins, Sheridan Jones, guys that we assume are going to be starters on the outside for Clemson. But he's looking to be like, he's knocking at that door, man. He's like, hey, let me in. I'm ready. I'm going to be available, right? So it's good to see. It's good to see guys like that have been in the program for as long as he has to, kind of it's kind of like that light bulb goes off, and they're like, I get it now, right? And maybe that'll bleed down to some of the younger corners like Sheldon Lewis and guys like that who are coming in fresh, and seeing these guys, and maybe they'll listen to them and be like, look, man, there's a certain way you got to approach the game. There's a certain way you got to take care of your body. There's a certain way you have to plan your meals and things like that. So it's going to be interesting how the Clemson secondary shakes out, because right now we suspect that Sheridan Jones and Nate Wiggins will be at the top, but who will be those two right under them? Will it be a Malcolm Green? Will it be whoever? Right? You got a Miles Oliver. You got all these guys that are jockeying for positions. And I think, we talked about last week about how hungry this defense is and how much they are, they're chomping at the bit to get this next season started. And, it's good to see. Mike Reed, I don't think anybody doubts him as a coach. At least I hope not. I think he recruits very well. He develops great talent. I mean, just look to the NFL to see that. And I think he's got these guys locked in. I think he's got these guys' attention. And I think they are absolutely bought into competing with each other, which is just going to elevate the play of the Clemson secondary. And we all know that was a question mark of last season. We saw it. We got absolutely annihilated several times last year in the Clemson secondary. We've already, named off the stats and all the stuff like that. So it's going to be, it's going to be eye-opening to see how the, not only the first team but the second team shakes out for the secondary. You got young guys in Sheldon Lewis who, Dabo's talking, big game about. He's talking that Sheldon Lewis is, an instinctive player. He's natural. He's smooth. He can absolutely run with the best of them. He's not overwhelmed with the playbook. He's not overwhelmed with, the information that he's getting. So it will be interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. But again, it's one of those things you gotta. We're talking up a big game, and so is Dabo, and we're hearing all the right things.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you got to prove it. And I think this team, like you said, this team should have a chip on its shoulder. Missing the college football playoff back-to-back seasons, a lot of questions around, about this program, about where it stands in college football after being just a mainstay in the college football playoff, winning national championships. Yeah. And you're trying to get back to that. And
6 straight appearances, and then the past 2 years we haven't made it, right? So there's a lot of doubt in Clemson right now from the outside in, right? There's a lot of doubt in, obviously the wide receiver room, which we've talked about. There's a lot of doubt in the secondary that we're really breaking down tonight. So, we'll see where Clemson is. I saw a comment earlier when I was perusing our comment section on some of our videos on the Clemson channel, and somebody commented that it's been a long time since this much shade or this much doubt has been thrown Clemson's way when it comes to national media and stuff like that. Florida State's getting a lot of love, and Clemson's getting a lot of doubt. So they said, gas up that Roy bus and let's get to work. So Dabo will love all the stuff that's going on when it comes to Clemson being doubted as far as not making it or falling off or whatever the case may be. He loves that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yes, he does.
He absolutely loves that kind of stuff. So let's transition to safety a little bit. So we got in safety, we got a Jalen Phillips, R.J. Mickens, Andrew Makuba. Sherrod Koval played more than he probably would have last season due to injuries. What's kind of your take on safety?
I am really, really excited about this safety room, and I think it's because, but just partially because I'm really excited about the cornerback room, and I'm a little bit more encouraged about the numbers you have there.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's huge, and
I mean, you got like I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry,
all
but
good.
the top three: Andrew Makuba, R.J. Mickens, and Jalen Phillips. They all have 500 to 600 snaps
Yep,
last season.
a lot of experience.
A lot of experience returning in that safety position. So that's super encouraging to me.
And you get a guy like Jalen Phillips who decided to come back for his fifth year, I think.
Absolutely,
Um,
his fifth year. Absolutely, yep,
hard to believe. I thought he had a really. I think Jalen Phillips was one of the more underrated players on the defense last year. I think
for
um,
sure.
he played really well. I think he was. I believe he graded out as Clemson's best tackler on the team.
He
Um,
did. He
so
did.
that's pretty. That's pretty good marks for him. Um, so I just excited to have him back. I think his experience is really really huge. Getting R.J. Mickens back, I believe he led the team in interceptions. Um, Having him back, I think I'm a huge R.J. Mickens guy. I think he had a really phenomenal year in 2021, and I thought he had another solid year last year. Uh, but yeah, obviously the one guy that we all like pretty much everybody in Clemson is really talking about and really loves is Andrew Makuba, and just because of how phenomenal he was as a freshman,
Man,
and just seeing
but
his
did he ever have a sophomore slump, man? Like,
no,
wow.
um, just a really off year. Obviously, we know that he was playing with some injury. And obviously he was out of position a lot. He had to he cross trained a ton. Was asked to play a lot of corner, and that's just not something he's built to do. I mean, he's he's undersized for for a safety, even for a safety. Well, for a safety, he's undersized,
Yeah.
and he's really not very big if you play him at corner either. And that's just not a position that he plays. Even though he's cross trained there, I mean, it's just not a position he's really natural at.
Hmm.
And I think because of that, it was just too many lapses, too many busted plays. Obviously, the South Carolina game especially was really miserable for him.
Eye discipline
Um,
was terrible.
yeah, just didn't always seem to be on the same page with everybody else, and um, yeah, just the obviously the thing that jumps out to me in the South, I remember I think it was him and Mickens were arguing with each other after I think
Hmm.
one of those big touchdowns that South Carolina had in that game. Um, and you could just tell that there was just the vibes were off, and that the room was not, the camaraderie wasn't there, the chemistry wasn't there, the understanding and of what they they were assigned to do, and it just all of it was off. And so um, I think Andrew is extremely talented, and
Yes.
I'm excited that he'll definitely have more room to play safety, and definitely won't be asked to play as much corner as he did last year. So I think because of that, having enough guys in the secondary in general will allow guys to be able to play in their natural position. And I think that's
Yes.
huge for this safety room in general, because I think this is a really good group of safeties that Clemson has: experienced, talented. Um, so I think there are a lot of pieces in this room to work with, and you got some freshmen coming in as well to kind of back them up as well. So uh, I'm just really excited for this group. I think this is a talented group, and I think it can only get better as far as the pass defense is concerned. Um, so we'll see. But again, like I said, with the corners, you got to go out and prove it.
Absolutely. It's a proof is in the pudding every single time, right? Proof is in the pudding. So I think we'll continue with the defensive side of the ball, and we'll move on to the front side of the defense in the defensive line, right? I think we've talked a lot about the linebackers, so we're going to transition to the defensive line for tonight's show. And you got a Justin Maskell, you got a XT. You have those guys that are out with injuries. Justin Maskell's got a rolled ankle. XT still recovering from his foot surgery, where they had to go in and to correct, whatever went on with his initial surgery. So, especially on the edge, we have a lot of question marks when it comes to the edge of Clemson's defensive line. Again, in the defensive tackle position, we got Ruka Rororo. We got let's see. I'm sorry. Who is it? Tyler Davis.
I was trying to figure out who you were thinking of.
Lord. Tyler Davis and Ruka Rororo. Those are obviously going to be the anchors in our defensive tackle positions. So those are pretty solid, right? We've all heard all the accolades and all the, praise that has come on Peter Woods since he's been on campus, apparently ahead of Christian Wilkins and all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about all the praise that has been lumped on a Peter Woods since he's been on campus?
It doesn't surprise me.
Okay. Yep.
Just anyone who's watched Peter Woods' film out of high school. I mean, he played in the highest level of Alabama high school football. Really good state for talent. Everyone knows how dominant this kid is. Just the power he plays with, especially for a guy who, in most cases would be considered undersized at his position. I think he's the real deal. Now, I do think that some of those comparisons saying that, he's ahead of Wilkins and Bresee.
Is that not a little like concerning to you, like that pressure?
Yeah,
like because he's already got pressure. He's a 5-star athlete, right? He's played at the highest level, like you say, of Alabama football. He's coming to Clemson. He's supposed to be the next whoever you want to say, right? But is that not a little concerning? And I know the coaches are, puffing him up and stuff like that, but I mean, those are high accolades. I mean, I don't know if people remember a Christian Wilkins. And look, I say that I know they remember a Christian Wilkins, but like that dude was dominant in college football. Like
pretty much from the moment he got
from start to finish, he was dominant in college football.
Him and Dex were just,
him and Dexter Lawrence were dominant in college football. So I'm not taking anything away from Peter Woods or anything like that, but those are super high accolades. And I just, it's just, I don't know. Your thoughts. Go ahead. You finish.
Yeah, I think it's a little irresponsible, but it's exciting. It's really, really exciting because, for all I know, obviously I'm not there at practice every day. I don't.
Yeah.
But clearly he's putting on, he's definitely, as advertised. So that's exciting, to begin with. I'm definitely not going to expect Christian Wilkins, Brian Bresee level production. I'm not going to expect that out of him, especially early on. But if it does, it certainly won't surprise me either. So yeah, are the comparisons a little irresponsible? Maybe, but they're also it's also really exciting, and it's also nice to hear that he's at least as advertised, and he's everything he's been cracked up to be. So obviously Peter Woods, I'm really excited to see him. Obviously, I think he's got a really good shot of being a starter or at least a co-starter from day one, at least, especially at edge where we're thin. Definitely think he's got a real shot. of being ending up in one of those starting roles. Because
especially when you consider an XT and a XT's out, and
Justin
then
Masvidal's out.
Justin Maskell's out with his rolled ankle. So I mean, there's a lot of young guys getting reps this spring that would not otherwise get the first team reps, right?
Yep. So yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity for him as well, and he's just from everything that's been said, he has not disappointed. So him and well, I guess we'll get on. We'll talk about TJ Parker later, but I do think that there's a lot of room for these freshmen, and yeah, Peter Woods is just. He's too good to not put on the field. So even if he's not a starter, he's definitely going to play a ton really early on. So really excited to finally get to see him in a Clemson uniform. We'll definitely, it'll be fun to see him in the spring game. And obviously I'm really excited about what he can do in the fall. So just happy to hear that, the reviews are nothing but positive, and that he's a guy that's definitely going to be an impact player for this team from day one, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
barring injury.
Yeah, barring injury.
Let's pray. Yeah.
Always barring injury. All right, so we got a Zaire Patterson, a Cade Denhoff, Jaheim Lawson. We got all these guys on the edge, right? That Dabo talked about, that he kind of gave a review on in the first 7 practices of spring practice, right? So a Zaire Patterson, obviously a redshirt sophomore, former 4-star. He didn't play a single game last season, but he did return a touchdown, an INT for a touchdown in the scrimmage. But, one of the big things that you talked about last episode when we talked about him, you talked about his inconsistencies, and that Dabo says that, he's super inconsistent and he just needs to decide to be great. So whenever Zaire Patterson decides to be great, he will be. So essentially, according to Dabo Swinney, he has to make the mental commitment to be great. He has all the physical tools. He has all the mental tools. He has every tool imaginable, but he has to decide to completely buy in on being a great football player. And that's Dabo Swinney's one complaint about Zaire Patterson. Other than that, he has every tool imaginable, right? You got a Cade Denhoff, who is a grinder, right? According to Dabo Swinney. He's unbelievably committed. He's got great work ethic. He played 6 games last season, got 19 snaps.
I was like, what?
19 snaps. Excuse me.
I thought you said 19 sacks. I would have.
Hey,
I was like, where's that line?
Look, that dude would have been an All-American.
Why wasn't I there for it?
Hey, he would have been an All-American. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He got 19 snaps and 1 tackle. Okay, so Lord, not 19 sacks, 19 snaps and 1 tackle. Right. I
was like, good Lord, did we?
And then,
I didn't know Cade Denhoff was Nick Bosa reincarnated. Good Lord.
No, he is not Cade Denhoff. He is not. He is not. He's not any sort of breaking out or anything like that, right? Yeah. So, and then Jaheim Lawson, obviously, Shaq Lawson. Everybody knows that name in Clemson football. So Dabo Swinney says he is flashy, right? So he's tough, physical, and he is a pure pass rusher. This dude can rush the passer like no other defensive lineman on Clemson's team, right? He called him a top 3 pass rusher on Clemson's defense right now. And I think that says something. Like, I don't know if people respect that accolade enough, but he called Jaheim Lawson a top 3 pass rusher on Clemson's defense right now. That's a big-time deal, right? And then you mentioned TJ Parker. What's your take on TJ Parker so far? I know
Again,
he's a new guy. He early enrollee type stuff. What's your take on him?
Again, he's another guy that I just think he's from everything that's been said, he's as advertised. Not the obviously depending on where you look, he was the second or third highest rated defensive lineman in this class behind Peter
Right.
Wood.
Yes.
And I think he is really freaky. And I think his pass rushing ability, I think really stuck out to me. When in his high school film, I think he's another guy that can be an early instant impact guy. So I'm really excited to see him. To go back to Jaheim Lawson, I do think that is something to take note of. But I think it's interesting that Dabo specifically said that he's a top 3 pass rusher on the team. So clearly there's definitely some development to be had as far as, run defense, setting the edge.
Yeah.
Being disciplined.
Yeah, you can look at that as a plus or a minus, I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, at the end of the day, if you have a really good pass rusher, it's good to have him on the field regardless. Hey. But obviously, there's still some steps to be, for him to take, and that's probably, that's why we haven't really seen him. He didn't, we didn't see him much as a true freshman, or at all as a true freshman. So I think it's also really interesting that he's repped some at, I believe he's repped some at linebacker too.
Yes, yes, he has.
So I think that does speak to his athleticism, and two, just he has some versatility, but he's got to definitely there's some things as far as the attention to detail and understanding your assignment and all of that maybe he still needs to take some steps forward. And so, but I'm really excited, and I always love when legacy recruits are really, really good. Obviously, Cole, having a guy like Cole Turner a step on the scene was that was
crazy, right?
A nice surprise. It's always nice because there's a stigma around legacy players where it's like,
you're just offering them because blah 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 blah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
Cole Turner put that to bed the last 4 games of Clemson's season last year.
Absolutely.
So,
and we have quite a few legacy recruits. I mean, Avion Terrell as well who we didn't even mention when we were talking about cornerbacks.
My bad. Yeah, Avion Terrell. Good Lord, how we missed that guy?
It's all good. Because I don't have anything in front of me. I'm thinking of guys off the top of my head.
Yeah, we're just like, look, like none of this is rehearsed, guys. We're just talking.
But yeah, as far as Jaheim Lawson, we know how good Shaq Lawson was as a pass rusher at Clemson. Just really one of the best in school history. But I just
still playing in the NFL, by the way.
Yes, he is. And I think it's really good to hear that about him, about Jaheim at least. But yeah, I think this edge room, it definitely has a lot to prove, and the what was I saying? This edge room has a lot to prove, and there's a lot of new faces and young guys that I think are going to have a really good chance to make an impact. But there's also some under the rated guys that have kind of been hinted at, and maybe they could pop as well. So you definitely need somebody to step up. The good thing is you've got some candidates, both freshmen and upperclassmen. So
yeah, there's guys flashing, and that's what's important. There's guys flashing. There's young guys in there, and I wanted to ask you something. Getting back to Tyler Davis, and he said something interesting that he felt like he had more in the tank, and he wants to win a national title. What do you think? Do you think he's kind of falling in the footsteps of defensive linemen in the past? And what do you think that will produce for overall the Clemson defensive line this coming season?
Well, obviously, just having Tyler Davis back is huge. Probably most importantly because we get more water ski videos, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I love seeing Tyler Davis. on a or what is it, jet
Yeah.
ski, whatever
He's
you call it.
yeah, the jet
Uh,
ski. Yeah. He's
um,
absolutely ridiculous on the jet ski.
yeah, just it's a beautiful sight to behold.
For sure, an All American on the jet ski.
Absolutely.
I know
So
he was only All ACC, but All American on the jet ski for sure.
yeah. And I just think he's an invaluable piece of this defense. So having him back is really it's huge for this defense. He's kind of the heart and soul. He brings a lot of leadership, a lot of experience, um, and he also is he's just really good. So it does kind of remind you of some of the past defensive line. I don't think he's quite as good as some of those guys that chose to come back, but he's definitely a huge part of this team, and I'm so happy that he's definitely one of my favorite players to come through here in recent years, just because of his attitude, and he kind of represents a lot of what Clemson stands for is under Dabo Swinney.
Yeah,
And so I'm happy to have him back, and I think he's going to be an invaluable piece for this defense.
absolutely. Yeah, he's just that dude. He's a guy that if you hear him talk, if you hear him in interviews, you just have to root for, right? Regardless of whether you're a Clemson fan or not, you kind of just have to root for him. Let me remind everybody here in the chat, if you are not subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe. Please like this video. It is a live video. It helps us out. I see we got 20 people in the chat right now. I think we got like 15 or so likes. So please go ahead and hit that like button for us. And this live video will be coming to you from now on for the next couple months at 9 p.m. every Thursday. Not 7 p.m., but 9 p.m. every Thursday. So just so you guys are clear, 9 p.m. every Thursday, we will be here because my daughter has softball. So, but the next thing I want to get into, Jordan, is I want to get into Greg McElroy, right? One of our favorite ESPN reporters, I guess. And he kind of talked about Clemson and his outlook on Clemson, and he kind of went through game by game. He didn't really give picks for every single game. He gave picks for some games, and his real preference was that this Clemson roster lacks the talent that the 2016 and 2018 rosters had, right? So he says that, this new Clemson team does not have the talent that the 2016 and 2018 team has. And he really focused on the defensive lineman depth, which I agree with, and the wide receiver depth. But he did say that Garrett Riley was a knockout hire. He said the offense will be exponentially improved, right? And he predicted that Clemson will go 10-2 and miss the college football playoffs. What is your take on Greg McElroy's outlook on Clemson football this coming season?
I think it's a reasonable one. And it's hard to I know for some it's hard to take the orange shades off and evaluate the team honestly.
Absolutely.
But this, as excited as I am and how good I think this team could possibly be, there's still a lot of questions, and a lot of those assumptions are based off of hoping that some guys contribute more than they have in the past. Some guys are healthier than they've been in the past. There's a lot hinging on it. You've got a new starter at quarterback. You have a new offensive coordinator. As as decorated as he is, and now as highly profile as he, no coordinator hire is a 100% sure thing.
And nothing's foolproof in college football.
No. And so there's a lot of questions with this team. And
Yes.
just looking at it objectively, you need guys to step up in the wide receiver room.
Absolutely.
You have questions to answer on the offensive line, especially at left tackle. Is Cade ready to step in as the full-time quarterback? Has he taken the necessary steps to be where he needs to be? Is the staff in general, have they learned from the mistakes they made in this past season? there's a lot. Is the defense, does the defensive line, kind of could carry on that, their production? Is the secondary improved? There's just a lot of questions that this team has to answer. So I think 10-2 is reasonable. I think it's an acknowledgement that this team, this team definitely can make the college football playoff.
For sure.
But this team is also, especially from what they show, from what we've seen from them, this team is capable of dropping a couple of games. So I think it's reasonable. 10-2. I think that would be. I mean, it was good enough for Clemson to win the league last year, so it would definitely be good enough to win. Obviously, it depends on where those losses come, but I think it's reasonable. It's definitely a possible outcome. It would be disappointing for sure.
For sure, yeah.
But
especially with our hire on the offensive side of the football.
Right.
What I will say is I absolutely agree with you, Jordan. I think it is reasonable. But what I will say is my hope as a Clemson fan, I'll put my orange colored glasses on, right? If our offense resembles anything that TCU's offense was last year, with better talent and better defense that we hope to get this season. We have spent this entire episode basically talking about the Clemson secondary, which was the weakest point of Clemson's defense last year. Our defensive line was fine. Our linebacking core was fine. Our secondary was not fine.
No.
We've talked about it in length on this episode tonight about the improvement that we expect on this defensive backfield, both in the safeties and the cornerbacks. If we get that improvement that we expect with Mike Reed and how he has talked about this defensive backfield and as hungry as they are and as hungry as this defense seems and how the offensive players have come out. We still got a lot of question marks on the offensive line as well when it comes to filling positions and stuff like that. But if all of that falls into place, we could be in for a big time rebound for Clemson football. And that's what I expect. But again, I agree with you. It is a rational take to say that Clemson goes 10-2 and maybe misses the college football playoffs. This is the last season of the 14 playoff. If anybody out there doesn't know, this is the last season of the 14 playoff. After this season, it goes to a 12-team playoff. I don't expect a Clemson team to miss a 12-team playoff.
No.
I don't think that will ever be acceptable for a Clemson football team. As far as the standard that Dabo Swinney has set and, what Clemson has invested into the Clemson program and furthermore the athletic program. That will never be acceptable. However, I think that's a modest take. I don't agree. I think Clemson will be back in the college football playoff next season. However, I could see where somebody looks at Clemson's schedule and is like, okay, they can absolutely go 10-2. I don't think that's like an outrageous or a disrespectful take at all, right?
Right.
So,
and I'm kind of with you. I do think this team is absolutely, if things shape up the way that we think they will, this team will be back in the college football playoff. But
absolutely,
I think it. Again, you have to. Those questions have to be answered. I think the answers are in the room. It's just a matter of, do you actually get what you need out of them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of moving pieces. Clemson has a lot of stuff to figure out, especially on offense and on defense as well. I think people have the misconception that Clemson defense doesn't have a lot to figure out. I think they do.
Oh, absolutely.
We just
talked about it.
Yeah, we just talked a ton about the secondary in particular, but the overall defense, they have a lot to figure out, right? And Wes Goodwin, I think the jury is still out on Wes Goodwin. I don't dislike Wes Goodwin by any means. I think he realizes the shortcomings of his defense last season, and I think he's already, you know, going to a place where he's improving on that, and he is compensating for those mistakes that he made last season. And anytime, look, you get a new job, you're a new defensive coordinator. I don't care how many times or how many years Wes Goodwin sat behind a Brent Venables. Look, there's going to be growing pains, and obviously we had those in last season. But with that said, I think Wes Goodwin showed the ability to pivot. He showed the ability to game plan. He showed the ability to scheme up an offense, right? And I don't think our offensive side of the ball did that. So I think this coming season, with a new offensive coordinator that can do those things, that has said all the right things. And again, look, we'll see how it goes when the season starts, right? Every coach says, everything they're supposed to say in the offseason, right? But I think dictating to the defense and getting to know what your team does well is important. And that's all the things that Garrett Riley has preached this offseason and this spring. We'll see some of it in the spring game. And we'll see Wes Goodwin continue to develop as a defensive coordinator. I have full faith in him. And I think, honestly, Clemson will be back next season. Not that we went anywhere. A lot of teams would trade places with us going 10-3 last season. If that's falling off, then I think we're in a good place, right? If that's the standard of falling off in Clemson, that's a good place to be. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. And something and kind of to something that I found really, really interesting. I've been doing a lot of during the week, just doing a lot of research, doing a lot of stats, and,
right?
digging up stuff and just kind of seeing what I can find. And I found this really interesting. And I charted Clemson's average starting field position on defense for every game this past season, and I compared it to 2021. And I was trying to see if there was because it felt to me at times last season that the defense was working with shorter fields than normal, and I think obviously that's because the offense wasn't moving the ball as well, and special teams wasn't able to flip the field as much.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see, if that was actually something I was imagining or something I was making up, or if there was some actual real data to support it. And turns out there is, and it's actually pretty eye-opening.
Okay.
So in this past season, Clemson played 14 games?
Yes.
In seven of them, so half of their games, the opposing offense on average started beyond the 30-yard line in 7 of those games. And I'm going to list those 7 games and see, and you'll see kind of some correlation in how those games went and where the opposing offense was starting a lot of the games.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
The first game was Furman, funnily enough. And that was actually the lowest. That was the worst on average starting field position for the entire year.
You mean our most watched post game live?
Yeah,
video?
Yeah. That's so weird. The post game Furman live show. That was Is it still our most watched?
It's still our most watched, dude.
Wow.
It's still our most watched video.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy? Is that not crazy?
That
is. For those of you out there in the comment section, our most watched live video between me and Jordan is our post-game Furman breakdown. Our post-game live reaction to Furman's game. Crazy.
That's so crazy.
Who would have thought?
But that is amazing. But in 7 of Clemson's 14 games last season, the opponent started beyond the 30-yard line on average in 7 of their 14 games. And so Furman was the first, Boston College, Notre Dame. We know how that one went. Louisville,
We do.
Miami, South Carolina, and Tennessee.
Wow.
Anytime your opponent is starting on average beyond the 30-yard line, that's not good.
No,
That's
that's
good.
never good.
That's always advantageous for the offense. So I do think there's something to be said about this defense and not really getting the best of the best in field position, especially compared to past years. Now, just going back a year to 2021, and I felt this was really jarring, especially considering how bad the offense was in 2021.
Right.
It was still way better than this past season. And so in 2021, the opposing offense started beyond their 30-yard line on average in only 2 games.
Wow.
2 of 13 games. That was South Carolina State. It's funny. It happens against FCS teams.
What's up with that, dude?
And UConn.
Wow.
Those were the only 2 games where the opponent started beyond the 30-yard line on average. And so I thought that was really, really interesting that this team has given up. This defense has been put in some pretty disadvantageous situations,
Right.
even more so than they were in 2021. So I do think finding a way to flip the field in special teams and just putting the ball in situations where even moving the ball enough on offense where you can flip the field, I think is huge. And I guess that's the difference between 2021, while the offense wasn't good, you had Will Spires, who was really, really solid at what he did. And then you have a guy, and then Will Spires, obviously he moves on. And then you have a guy like Aiden Swanson coming in, Green, really inexperienced, and you weren't able to flip the field as much. So
not at all. Yeah.
I think that's I think it's really interesting that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's absolutely insane. I see people in the chat talking about our female punter tryout. Did you see this, Jordan?
Yeah, I did.
She did not make the team, by the way.
No. I mean, not surprising, but
not surprising. But she did not make the team. But she was able to try out. Clemson holds open tryouts, I think, every single spring. So, no, she did not make the team. She did not perform well enough in her tryouts to make the team. So, yeah, we'll leave that there. But I want to move on before. So you guys in the chat section, please get your comments in now. We're going to cover one last topic, and then we will get to your comments. We will get to your questions. So if you have any questions for me or Jordan Bowman, please go ahead and get them in now while we talk about this last topic, and that will be the draft, Jordan. We got a couple guys in the draft, right? A couple guys that, left Clemson early, a couple guys that, did the pro day and all that kind of stuff. And that is highlighted by one Miles Murphy. And he is big boarded at number 12, a peak ranking at 4, and he's projected at 8 to Atlanta. And then you have a Brian Brzee that is a consensus big board at 23, a peak rank at 2, and a projection at 26 to Dallas. And then you got Trenton Simpson, which is our super athletic linebacker, big boarded at 39, peak rank at 19, and projected to Detroit at 48. You got KJ Henry, which is big boarded at 123, peak rank at 68. There's no projection for him. Davis Allen, consensus big board at 169, peak rank at 129, and no projected destination. You got Jordan McFadden, left tackle, consensus big board at 294, peak rank at 198 and no projection. And then Joseph Ngata rounds up the bottom at consensus big board of 405, peak rank at 228 and no projection. So I know we watched the the underwear Olympics. We watched the Clemson Pro Day. So what are your takeaways? Where do you see our guys going, or what are your hopes for our NFL hopefuls, if you will, coming out of Clemson this season?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting to kind of watching this draft process. I think, and I see Edward mentioned it in the chat. Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee, they've dropped some in a lot of projections. And Murphy especially, because he has not worked out for teams yet. He was unable to work out in the combine. He was unable to work out at Clemson's Pro Day.
Still injured. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's hurt his draft stock a ton. So it's kind of up in the air how many. Going into this draft process, we thought we had 3 consensus first-round picks. This might not be the case. Murphy could be looking at day 2. So could Trenton Simpson. I do think Brian Brzee is. I think he's solidly. I think his workout at the combine was good enough for scouts. I think he'll definitely be a first-round pick. But Murphy and Trenton Simpson are up in the air.
Yep, absolutely.
And so it's going to be really interesting to see how those guys play out. Obviously, I love KJ Henry. I think he's got a really good shot. I just want him to go. I don't really care where he ends up. Well, as far as his draft position goes, I just want to see him in a spot that's advantageous for him.
Right.
And then, Davis Allen, I think the world of Davis Allen. I think he's going to be a really underrated pickup. I think he's kind of just been slept on by a lot of draft scouts. I think he's a guy that can do it all. Really good size, can catch, blocks really, really well. And those are the kind of things, especially blocking, that keep you in the NFL a really long time as a tight end. So I think he's going to be a really nice pickup for somebody. J Mac, probably good. He's worked out as a guard. I think that's where he projects in the NFL.
Yeah.
We'll see where he ends up. He definitely seems to be kind of a late round selection, and then Ngata, Joseph Ngata, probably an undrafted free agent. Just didn't have the obviously physically really impressive, but he just did not have the production in college. I felt like he could have used another year. He decided something else. He decided to move on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but we'll see. I think he's going to get picked up for sure. I think he's definitely a guy that you can pick up on your practice squad and could end up getting something really nice out of it. So, I don't.
Do you think any of these guys will not be drafted? So you got Miles Murphy, Brian Brzee, Trenton Simpson, KJ Henry, Davis Allen, Jordan McFadden, and Joseph Ngata. Do you think any of those guys will not be drafted and will become just free agents that will be signed to practice squads? And you know how the NFL deals with it. So it's not always a downside to be a free agent at the end of the draft. Sometimes it's better to not be drafted in the 7th round and go to a team that you can choose based off of personnel and stuff like that. So what do you see with that?
Yeah. With this group, I feel pretty confident in everybody except McFadden and Ngata. McFadden, obviously, he's undersized and he has really good length, which is why he was able to play tackle at his height. But just I think he has some limitations physically, and so there's a chance he doesn't get selected. I do think I think there's a really good chance he does get selected in the the 6th or 7th round, but when you get to those later rounds, it's kind of hit or miss.
Right.
Even if you're projected there, it's kind of a crapshoot whether you actually get selected.
Yes.
And then Ngata, it would kind of surprise me if he got drafted just because the production is just not there.
Do you think what do you think drove his decision to go to the NFL instead of coming back another season? Because to me, it surprised me that Ngata went to the NFL. Not that I fault him, like by no means. Look, if you want to go to the NFL and you think you've put enough on tape and all that kind of stuff to go to the NFL, but I don't really feel that he's been healthy or put enough on tape or done that kind of thing. So what do you think drove his decision decision to go to the NFL?
Oh man, we forgot BT Potter. Thank you, chat.
BT Potter, dang.
Real quick, yeah. I think BT Potter is also a possible late round. Kickers is just kind of that's kind of hit or miss. He's either
kickers.
I think he's either seventh round or undrafted. But
kickers don't always get drafted. But I 100% believe BT Potter is going to get a chance in the league. I mean, the dude's got a cannon of a leg. Yeah. He's super accurate. I know that he had a terrible game for his last game in a Clemson uniform, but make no mistake about it. BT Potter is accurate. He has a cannon of a leg, and I believe he'll have a long NFL career.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, as far as the Ngata thing, I don't fault him. He's dealt with injuries of a lot of his career. He just some guys don't want to stay in college for that long. I mean, he did his time. He graduated, and I think he's going to get a shot. I really don't expect him to hear his name called, but I do think he'll definitely get a chance with somebody, and that's still even if you get picked up on the practice squad, you get pretty decent money.
For sure. Yeah.
And really all you need is an opportunity, and if he impresses, he could parlay that into a possible roster spot. So
there you go.
I don't fault him. It did take me by surprise a little bit for sure. I thought there was, especially given how he looked towards the end of the year and just the prospects with a new quarterback. I thought maybe he would decide to come back for one more year and maybe possibly have a really big season. But he decided, nope, I've had enough. I'm ready to go. I'll take my chances in the league. And so we'll see. It's a shame because, coming out of high school, obviously he was, I loved his film, out of, California. He was just everything you wanted in a receiver, just really physically impressive. Just great at the catch point, had really good speed. Especially back then, it seemed like he really was. He had the burst that he didn't seem to have when he got to Clemson. And it didn't work out. Injuries kind of just derailed his development. So it didn't work out the way we all thought his career would. But I do think he's got some really good physical tools, and I think that's enough for sure to get a shot in the league. And he definitely showed enough of that, I think, this past season for teams for him to be on some teams' radar. So I definitely think he'll get a shot, even if he doesn't get his name called on draft night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But I think we do have 3 first-round guys, right?
Maybe
at least a chance.
I think they deserve. I think they deserve to be first. I think they're all first-round talent.
They deserve to be first round. Will they be? Who knows? Yeah. But Miles Murphy, Brian Brzee, and Trenton Simpson have a chance to be first-round guys, and then obviously you got KJ Henry, Davis Allen, Jordan McFadden, and Joseph Ngata, and BT Potter, who obviously hopefully get drafted, but they are obviously not, at least right now, looked at as first-round talents. So, I hope KJ Henry has a long career in the NFL. As much as I would have loved to see him come back to Clemson, I think he did have his best season in a Clemson uniform this past year. So I don't blame him for leaving, and I wish him the best. I hope he has a great career. But I know for sure our top three will be drafted in the NFL. Whether that's in the first round, second round, or third round, those guys will be drafted. Probably along with KJ Henry. You could probably put him in that category. And then the next three: Davis Allen, Jordan McFadden, Joseph Ngata, and then BT Potter, which is a kicker. Sometimes teams are not okay with wasting, or I say wasting, but spending a draft pick, I guess, on a kicker. Sometimes they'll just pick those guys up in free agency and do that sort of thing. So we'll see where it goes. But we wish all those guys well. They had great Clemson careers, and I look for them to continue that, represent Clemson well in the NFL. So I think that wraps our show up for the night as far as what we had planned, Jordan.
Yeah.
Now it's all up to the comment section and what they have for us. So if you guys got any questions to get into myself or Jordan Bowman, any sort of topics that you want us to address before we get off of here tonight, now is your chance. And we will be on the lookout through the comment section to see what you guys got to say.
And while you guys are getting your comments in, just another reminder, since we're wrapping up. Obviously, next week we are unfortunately moving the start time for the All In show to 9:00 Eastern time. So just don't be surprised. It's something we had to do. Obviously, for logistically, it just wasn't going to work out with Tiger Paul Craven and his schedule. So just kind of put that in your calendars if you set your calendars for this show.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if you see 9:00 on here. When the show was scheduled. So yeah, we'll be a little bit later, but same day, Thursday, just moving it to 9:00. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we will be on at 9:00 next week, Thursday, 9 p.m. instead of our normal slot at 7 p.m. So please come by, check us out. We'll be chopping it up just like we do now. Edward says Miles has dropped a bunch. I think I seen Miles at 20 and some later. I hope Miles shows out at his own pro day. Yeah. So he's been hurt. I don't really know what's going on with him, but he's obviously trying to recover as best he can and then do his own pro day. Is he doing that at Clemson, or where is he doing that at?
I'm not sure. I don't know the details. I just know he's holding a personal workout. I guess it would be at Clemson.
I would assume, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Why would he do it anywhere else?
Yeah.
He said, DP says, I wish KJ would have stayed one more season. Don't we all?
Yeah, that would have been nice, but he's been here 5 years. He'd be, him and XT came in the same draft, recruiting class. So, they would definitely be collecting Social Security checks for sure. So, but it would have been nice to have him back for another year. Absolutely.
Bryce says it's funny how Murphy opted out of the Orange Bowl, to prevent getting hurt, but got hurt anyway in training. Well, he didn't want to take the record from Redfo. All right. So you guys get your comments in. Bryce said, Jordan, I placed a pre-order for one of the first 0 Point energy systems that are being released. This is about to change the world. Boys, decentralized power gives the power back to the people.
I'm going to be honest, Bryce. I have no idea what you're talking about there. Being the first 0 Point energy system being, what do you mean by that?
I don't know what that means. I'm going to let Jordan tackle that. So,
well, in quantum mechanics, a 0 Point energy system is basically just it's the ground state. It's the lowest energy state that a quantum system can have. So
okay.
I'm confused on what he's saying here. There's there's some theoretical stuff about possibly harnessing that energy. Maybe that's what he's talking about. But I don't know of any.
Maybe.
I don't know of any breakthroughs that have happened as far as that goes. So I'm not really sure what he's trying to say there.
Yeah, don't
maybe
ask me.
But then again, I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll have to elaborate further. I'm not sure what he means.
Yeah, let him know. Mike Bryan and TJ Moore would be awesome. We need to land Terrence Moore and Braylon Stanley.
Yeah, Braylon Stanley. Yeah, absolutely. Those would be two huge recruiting wins for Clemson as far as wide receiver.
You got any recruiting updates for us since we're sitting here waiting on the chat section?
Well, Clemson did get a crystal ball from four-star defensive line Heaven Brown Schuler. He was Clemson's second offer in this entire recruiting cycle. That relationship has been going on a really, really long time, and his recruitment is winding down. I think the Tigers are in really good position. They think the staff has done a really good job. So really excited for him. We'll see when he. I don't think he's announced a date specifically, but I know he will be announcing soon. And I think Clemson is in a really good position right now. So happy to hear that news. But yeah, Bryce, like you said, yeah, getting TJ Moore and Braylon Staley would be huge. I think those are two really. Those would be two really huge gets. I think Braylon Staley, I think Clemson is in a really good position for. TJ Moore, I think his recruitment, I think Clemson has done a good job of getting in on him early, but his recruitment has blown up recently. So we'll see how his kind of his top schools kind of shape out, because I don't think he's planning to announce soon. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, all right, guys. I think we're going to get out of here tonight. We've kind of exhausted all of our stuff we want to talk about tonight. We appreciate you guys getting in here. Please hit that like button. Know that we will be back next Thursday at 9 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. So 9 p.m. next Thursday for the show. We will see you guys all there. We hope you guys show up and show out. And until next time, we will see you there. Jordan, go ahead and send our audience off.
Yeah, guys, once again, thank you for tuning in. Another great show tonight. Glad to have the turnout. Once again, we will be obviously we're moving the time to 9 p.m. So next week. So make sure that you guys are cognizant of that. But other than that, we will be right back to discuss Clemson football. Obviously, they're going to be getting back at it in spring practice. Spring break is, classes start back Monday. And so obviously they'll be hitting the ground running again. In spring practice, we'll have more updates and practice reports will come out. And we'll have plenty to talk about. So make sure you guys tune into that. But until then, we will see you guys next week.
Yep. Until next time, I am Tiger Paul Craven. He is Jordan Bowman. We'll see you in the next live show, and that will be next Thursday at 9 p.m.
Later, guys.
Later.